this is good. You're drinking. I like it.
And I've been drinking a lot more, man. It's
yeah. No, I know. I can imagine.
I do hit the exercise bike every day, though, so I feel like I'm balancing it out at least.
You know, it's funny. My girlfriend and I have been running since probably about like November or December, and it's always funny. Like we'll get done with the run, and then like 15 minutes later, like one up smoking a cigarette. And it's just like one of those things of like, you know, it's like, you know, it's almost like you earned the cigarette. Like, you know, it's kind of like counterbalancing.
That's how I feel once I get off the bike. I'm like, I earned it.
Yeah, you know, you gotta all things in moderation.
I mean, I don't drink. I don't drink more than 3 or 4 a day, so
yeah,
you know, I know my limits.
No, exactly. That's what's key.
So welcome to episode 31 of what has kind of become stories from a virtual bar these days. I'm, of course, your host, Chris Osborne. And once again, I am joined by Emmanuel Tresky, bar manager and the face of the Speakeasy 518 in Albany. How are you, buddy?
Doing well. How are things on your end?
Not bad. You know, there's nothing like a good noontime beer. So
yeah,
I'm feeling pretty good.
No, I'm kind of jealous. I just have a big jug of water next to me. Kind of wishing I grabbed a cocktail now that I see that. Which, you know.
I'm a mood and trendsetter. What can I say?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Glad we were finally able to catch up. We've been talking about getting back together for a while here to chat about some booze and what's happening these days.
Yeah, no, it's been a paramount thing, that's for sure. We've definitely talked about trying to get something to happen at the Speakeasy, at least in March, if not April. And obviously with all this stuff that's going on, that doesn't seem like something that's going to be apparent sooner than later. So, you know, before we do, you know, all get started, you know, thanks for, you know, putting out the podcast, for doing what you did with Sam. And then I forgot the most recent one you did, but you know, just doing the virtual podcast.
Yeah, it was
Indian
fun.
Ladders.
Yep.
Yeah.
Scott's a cool guy. We had a nice Pee-wee Playhouse background going on.
Oh, wow.
Which unfortunately was causing a lag on the connection. So we had to switch to audio only after a while. But so we'll see how this goes today. And then I'm going to be posting one that I have all set with Kurt from Artisanal later tonight.
Oh, that's awesome.
Of which I'm having another artisanal beer right now.
Hey, which one are you drinking from them?
I got their batch of All Together, the worldwide collaboration that they brewed.
That's cool.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm forgetting the place that started it. Other Half Brewing out of Brooklyn put out like a generic guideline for a bunch of breweries to follow. Everyone's put in and everyone's brewing it and giving profits to, you know, local hospitality workers out of work.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
You know, cover their costs of what they need to brew it and things like that. So, yeah, I tell you, man, beer delivery's been fantastic.
Yeah, no, seeing all these places doing like spirits, beer deliveries, all that. It's cool to see that coming together, especially
it's been interesting to see how people are adjusting because of all the quarantine and self-distancing and things like that.
Yeah.
So, I had to look this up yesterday, back in October when I was at the Speakeasy and we got to hang out. That episode actually got a great response, I got to tell you.
Yeah, no, that was great. You know, quite a bit of drinking, quite a bit of, you know, talking about different spirits and all of that. But, yeah, no, that was good to see that people were interested in it. You know, I hope, again, that they got what they wanted to. Any questions were answered, all that.
Yeah, that was the most people I heard from were the ones that were like, I knew of the Speakeasy, but I had no idea kind of what it was or, you know, how to get in and things like that. And then they were excited to listen to that and learn all about it.
Yeah, it's the best story. I've heard of very few. Yeah, no, I've heard of very few places where you know, people know it's a business, people know it's open, but they're, I wouldn't say scared of trying to approach the place, but it's almost like, oh, I don't know if they'll let me in if I go, like, and yeah, no, it's built itself much more mystique than you know, it's all about like just the least trying to get in. It's as easy as anything else, just ring the doorbell, come in. But yeah, it's always funny when you hear stories about, you know, what other people hear about the place, what they think about it, what kind of passcode they need to get in. And all
it's the password thing is what I hear the most from people. Like, don't they need a password? I'm like,
yeah, which for me has always been, you know, money. Just, you know, if you got money to spend, if you got We got booze. We got booze to supply you with. That's for certain.
Yeah, we were talking. I've been home a lot more now, so it's given me
much
more time to focus on the podcast. At least, like I said, I've been circling back to people to see how they're holding up, how ways to help out their businesses and things like that. You've started a pretty cool thing with your live videos.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's again, the intention and the purpose, and one of the things I wanted to talk with you about now is, just getting people who are at home that don't have the accessibility to come out, to ask questions, to learn more about bartending. This is the time to kind of, watch the videos if you are at home, to kind of learn up a little bit and do more DIY, more practice kind of stuff. So that idea came when I knew that we were going to be put on pause for a little while, is just to let people know, hey, this is not only some history, some of the stuff that, I've learned in my time, but as I've had in my previous career in culinary arts, I've had, chefs, tell me, hey, you're getting paid to learn from me how, to cook. I wouldn't say I'm the encyclopedia, all that kind of stuff, but, I've learned a lot in my time. I've gone through different resources, so I just wanted to impart that knowledge on anybody that wanted to just watch the videos, learn more about the stuff. And from there, anybody that was curious to just watch that and then do their own independent research to just kind of learn more about the cocktails. But that was the whole intention was, not only do I notice people that come into a speakeasy not only enjoy drinking, being there for live music, but a lot of people do just watch us bartend. They do come in to ask us a lot of questions. And a lot of, the better bars in the area, I feel like, people will come in just to watch those bartenders work and ask them those questions about, what syrups they're working on, what projects, so forth and so on. And this time is one of those times where, with not being at the bar, it's easy to miss out. Hard to not be around those people and answer those questions, because not only does it, make me feel good that what I'm learning, these people are being able to ask about and they can walk away with more, but also in my sense, I'm not able to practice it. So there are certain things that you do just kind of keep in the back of your head from just repetition of telling guests like the same thing over and over. But this is a time where it's starting to get where you find the motivation hard to just kind of learn or to just kind of recite the things that people ask you about on the daily. So it's not only about that mental jogging of trying to keep like the old stuff fresh, but trying to do that while not being able to practice it so much. So for the most part, right now, a little hard, but, thankful that everybody is taking precautions as they are, that, there are bars that are open that are offering to-go cocktails.
Yeah.
So there is the option for people that are, picking up those cocktails to be able to ask them questions about, how to stir this, shake this, so forth and so on.
So how's the response been to the videos or the live videos on Facebook and Instagram you've been doing?
Oh, they've been pretty good. I've had a lot of people commenting on them as they come through the live feed. A few questions on the side here and there, and it's been good to not only see a few familiar faces, but a lot of new people that are thanking me for doing the video. Again, the main intention and purpose was just taking what I learned and knew and just trying to share it with everybody that wanted to just learn more about at-home cocktailing, bartending, and the response, thankfully has been very good. Just a lot of people very thankful that I'm putting that out and doing that at this time, which, I'm also thankful to the people at City Beer Hall for being able to let me in to be able to do those videos.
Yeah, I was going to say, because they're closed down. They're not even doing any kind of takeout or anything like that. They're just completely closed.
No. Yeah, and it's it's tough because it's right downtown. So a lot of state workers, still coming in for the most part. But when it comes to the business aspect of City Beer Hall, and obviously downstairs, we're just gonna, I guess, take it easy until Cuomo, all this COVID stuff blows over, which. Then again, when hopefully it does sooner than later, it's going to be interesting to kind of see what the bars look like, and even the restaurants. I mean, I don't know if you've seen, but there are reports in China of, restaurants that are seating, tables at least 6 feet apart from each other, like there can only be like a certain amount of people at each table, a certain amount of people in the restaurant and bar itself.
I feel like that's the way it'll probably be once they get to a point in our area where they can start, or where at least they're comfortable enough starting to open things up. It's going to be probably quite some time before, you're back in a real packed type environment.
Yeah. So for right now, as I was mentioning before, the videos are the one thing that are helping to keep me motivated and kind of, I guess, like help me do my own research, try to keep up and learn on things.
Well, they're also great because they kind of keep that speakeasy name out there so people don't forget about the place. That's for sure.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, with things being closed down, and even just now, it's hard to really just let people know that you're open, let them know what's going on, because now, of course, there are reports about businesses and certain restaurants that have closed down just because of not only what has happened, but just anticipation of how long this is going to be going on for.
Yeah.
So, very, very thankful that there are the formats of the media, to be able to do, Facebook, Instagram. We were doing Zoom for a minute, and I have had people suggest to me that I should do that as well. But, it's good to have that format to be able to share all that information, all the knowledge, and, again, be able to answer any questions for anybody that is curious, because, the one thing that, we talked about before and you mentioned earlier in the podcast is that, I guess mystique, which is also something that can be scary for people about coming to the speakeasy, again, ring the doorbell, the supposed door person, are they going to let me in? Are they not going to let me in? I also, just want people to know that with these videos, the idea is that the speakeasy itself is accessible to everybody. They can come on in, they can check out the place, and see that, we're trying to do as much fresh, cool stuff in there as we possibly can. We just have a license to be able to basically recreate old school cocktails, and a lot of them, thankfully, basically ask for a lot of labor-intensive processes, a lot of cool spirits that people have kind of forgotten about, things like Kummel, Kirschwasser. So it's cool to be able to mess around with those spirits and to kind of, show people how they're useful, why they're still around.
Question, and it's probably nice to, when you do these videos, have a reason to put on the bow tie and suspenders again.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's my excuse to get dressed up. Like, I'll take the extra time to just like put everything out, like make sure like the bow tie matches up with the, like the shirt I'm wearing and so forth and so on.
Like I said, I go to the office twice a week now, and those are the only 2 days I'm not wearing shorts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so hard not to take advantage. I've, as mentioned earlier, I've been listening to a lot of other podcasts, and I listened to the Bill Burr one quite a bit. And he was talking about how this almost feels like summer vacation when you were a child. And you just felt like you were almost like loafing around a little too much, not doing anything, and you just almost felt guilty that you were, but also like, whatever. This is time off. Like, let's just kind of relax, enjoy it for what it is,
Watching the videos are great. I don't catch them live because you're usually doing them when I'm at work one of those 2 days, so I end up watching them later on. Do you have like all the same utensils at home? Because it's quite the array of stuff.
Yeah, and one of the it is definitely a lot. And as mentioned before, with the Kirschwasser, the Kummel, you have certain bar tools where there's only like, I don't know, maybe 2 to 5 like cocktails that you'll ever need them for, and maybe one throughout the year that you make for somebody that you will use that cocktail tool for. It's a lot to do with my background training in culinary arts too, where I ended up working in quite a few kitchens, especially in Albany. Before I was a bar manager there at 677. I worked on the line over there. Worked at the Brown Derby when that was still open.
Oh wow!
And it was just a point of pride that if you were a good cook, wanting to be a chef, that you would always come in with your own knife kit. You would come in with your own tools. You'd always treat your knife as basically like like your keys, your phone, your wallet. It was like that thing that you don't go into work without. And the tools that we have at the Speakeasy, quite a few of them are supplied from my home bar. And there are things that, are just things that I find comfortable to work with. They help to make everything that happens at the speakeasy move just a little bit faster. And yeah, every little tool has its purpose. I mean, you can get away with, you know, not getting the tools and trying to find your own method to build your own thing or kind of create your own. But when it comes to all these tools that are in place, you know, some of them are very expensive, but I find the value is in the durability, and having those around is just something that's necessary. That's for certain.
Have you been, since you started the videos, have you been getting requests for things to make?
No, surprisingly not. You know, that's the one thing that I I always wonder when it comes to social media and promotion, because I've never considered myself to be somebody that's good at that. But at least when it comes to like putting it out there and letting people know, hey, this is happening, like I feel like I do a good enough job of that. I feel like, you know, especially on Instagram, we'll be like, hey, if you have any questions, want to see this go this direction, you know, please let me know. And then the 4 weeks that I've been doing that, I've only had one person comment about like what they want to see be done. You know, for me, it's kind of a head scratcher, because it's like, you know, if you are going to watch the videos and you are interested about learning more, like I'd feel like, you know, if the person that is doing the research to learn as much as they can about that, like you'd want to ask them, hey, like, you know, talk about this, like, please, like, you know, I'm going to be watching the videos, so talk about this for 5 minutes if you can, 10 minutes. Like, there was this one person, I think their Instagram name was like AI Mealy or something like that, but there was one of the videos I did where on Instagram they commented 5 separate times, and they were all like 5 separate questions. And, you know, it's like, that's awesome. Like, you know, keep them coming. It's one of I've always said this, that the biggest motivation for me at that job are the guests, are the customers, you know, and it's not so much, you know, fellow bartenders, because, you know, not only do we all, you know our stuff, but there comes a point where like we almost think we all know our stuff, to the point that there's assumption that certain people know certain things that they might not. And so I always like the general customer, the person that always just goes why over to everything, because it gets to a point where like you can answer, you know, like 8 whys, but like by the 9th one, you're like, oh yeah, like why this? So I've always enjoyed, you know, just guest anyone that knows a little bit about it, but is just learning more, that has 8 million questions, because, you know, there'll be a lot of those that I feel like I can confidently answer, but there might be 1 or 2 that are like, you know, like I need to research this a little more, like, you know, like it's always motivation when I don't know an answer, to just want to know obviously more about that. So I always like when people are coming in asking as many of those kind of questions as they possibly can. I like it, you know?
Nice. So what are some of your recommendations for people to keep on hand at home then?
Oh yeah, so when it comes to things at this time, you know,
I have to admit, really, the extent of my cocktail mixing utensils kind of begins and ends with shot glasses. Like I said, I don't drink a lot of liquor, so.
Right. No, that's. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. Just a bottle and a glass is always a winning combination of all those. But for base spirits, I would always suggest at least 5 bottles, and you're gonna want to do light, dark, vermouth, bitters, and some type of orange liqueur, whether it's like a Curacao, a Cointreau.
Really?
What else? Curacao, Cointreau, fudge. What else? Goodness. There's another one I'm thinking of. I can't think of like another style of orange liqueur, but if you look at a lot of classic cocktails, one of the most prevalent flavoring ingredient that wasn't a straight spirit was typically like an orange Curacao, dry Curacao, Cointreau, something along those lines. You did have like your occasional maraschino liqueur, your occasional like as mentioned before, Kummel, Kirschwasser, Benedictine, Strega. But those were all very specific to certain cocktails. If you look at orange Curacao, you can pretty much see it from like the income tax cocktail, your old school margarita, the sidecar.
The sidecar. What is the sidecar? I know that name.
Cognac, lemon juice, and Cointreau orange liqueur, and then you can either do a sugar rum on the outside or not.
Huh.
But yeah. So there's at least three cocktails that use orange: Curacao, your old school La Floridita or Hemingway Daiquiri, the Liberal cocktail, the Calvados cocktail. There's probably at least like 20 more like classic orange cocktails that use like orange or dry curacao. So like if you're looking for like a non-straight dark or light spirit, that's like a liqueur or cordial, like some type of orange liqueur. And it can be, if you find yourself to be on the more bitter end, like a dry curacao. If you find yourself to be a fan of something sweeter or something like Cointreau. But definitely those. And then when it comes to the lighter, darker bottle, when it comes to light, like something like a gin, vodka, one of those two, which is very playable into different spirits. For dark, I'd definitely go with some type of cognac, bourbon, or rye, one of those three. For vermouth, I'd probably go with sweet vermouth, and then for bitters, Angostura. So you have your basic aromatic bitters to go for pretty much a lot of your classic and newer cocktails. And those would be my five that I would suggest to grab. Like if you are going to the liquor store and you want to make a lot of cocktails, grab those 5 bottles.
You say that like someone wouldn't want to make a lot.
Yeah, no, it's between those, obviously if you sub in or sum out some of the bottles, you probably have about 50 to 60 different cocktails you can make just from those five different bottles.
Yeah, I'd say that's quite a few.
Yeah. So that's the benefit, you'll run out of the spirits before you actually run out of cocktails to make. So that's definitely something to hold on to. If you are looking for citrus, the most popular, prevalent ones in older recipes, and especially newer ones, would be lemon juice. Lime would be second, with orange juice behind that, but lemon is definitely your number one. With lemon juice, you can definitely freeze that, especially if you want to, squeeze it yourself. Just make sure you're straining out like any of the pulp or pit that comes through the squeezing process. And freeze it right away, and then you'll have it. You can have it frozen for up to 3 to 4 months past that point. And freeze it in small containers. That way, you can obviously take it out a little bit, so that you can make cocktails for 2 to 3 days, or just drink it in lemonade if you really want to. Just have it mixed together like that. And there's a fun other thing I talked about in the live videos for anyone listening that wants to do a bottle-aged cocktail. That's something I'll talk about super briefly. Basically, it was found out that if you take a cocktail, mix it together in a bottle, and just kind of let it sit and marry, the chemical compounds within all of the alcohol will kind of rust onto each other. And so like any of the alcohol vermouth that would basically hit you, if you had it quote unquote fresh or just made like in the moment, would kind of hit you in a certain way where like you get a lot of alcohol at first, a little sweetness in the middle with that slightly bitter profile at the end. The ideal of bottling it would, again, having those cells rest upon each other to the point that all the alcohol would start to smooth out a little bit, so that you wouldn't have such a spike of alcohol at the beginning, a spike of sweetness in the middle that would all kind of level out to marry out and be a cocktail that's quite enjoyable just straight out of the bottle by itself. And you can do so by basically just making a Manhattan in a bottle, by making a 2-1-2 mix, which would be 2 ounces of bourbon, 1 ounce of vermouth, and 2 ounces of bitter. And so you could just measure out any type of bottle you might have. Typically, or preferably, I should say, something like glass, and something that does seal pretty well. But you just basically want to measure it out to the amount of ounces that are in the liter bottle. So say, for instance, you had a 1 liter bottle, or like a liquor bottle lying around that you wanted to build it in. You would just take what is about 20 ounces of the bourbon, 10 ounces of vermouth, and then 2 ounces of of the bitters, and then put that into the bottle. Just put a cap on it, literally just let it sit like that. And the fun thing is that even though it is vermouth, the vermouth won't oxidize. Even though it is at room temperature, it'll just, as mentioned, those cells inside the alcohol will kind of rest upon each other to the point that every time you open up that bottle, it won't spoil, go bad. It'll just keep getting better and better and better the longer it sits in that bottle by itself.
Nice.
So for anybody looking to just, if they're lazy, they just want to basically pour something in a shot glass. Then they got their bottle, their shot glass.
Right up my alley.
Cocktail form. Yeah.
That's utilizing all my drink mixing material.
You know, seriously. Gotta have that mini Manhattan right next to the Artisanal Brewworks beer.
While I sit there and play video games, yes.
Yes. Oh man, so many video games. There's been a lot of old school games being played.
Is that what you've been up to mostly during this when you're at home?
Oh yeah, especially in the afternoons. Like there's been a lot of home cocktail experimentations, building of like little cheat sheets here and there and that kind of stuff, and trying to keep up as much as possible. But there's so much you can do, and so it's to the point where I've had this account with this old gaming company called GOG.com, and a lot of old school video games such as StarCraft, Warcraft, Heroes of Might and Magic,
wow,
Jagged Alliance.
Video
games that were huge in the late 90s.
Speaking of that, what I just wrapped up the other week for that's already been out for over 25 years, Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
One of the greatest RPGs of all time that I finally played 25 years later.
No, that's it's one of the best things ever. Those old school games, I'm telling you, they don't make them. They just make them too movie driven these days. I feel like. I mean, I haven't played Red Dead Redemption or any of the newer games, but at least for RPGs themselves, and being a Final Fantasy fan, it seemed like you were watching a 30-minute video in between playing 5 minutes of action every time.
I did start
fun.
I did start No, we're cool. I actually did start the 7 remake last night. It's mind blowing. It's cinematic, yeah. But one thing I do miss, like as great as the games are these days, is the simplicity of the controls.
Yeah, no, it's so true. On the straightforward, just play the game thing.
It was so easy to pick up the controls for Chrono Trigger because I only needed 3 buttons.
Yep. No, it's so basic, so easy, and you don't really have to read the stories. You just keep hitting a button, watching the stories like pass by. So it's like, I just want to fight. Like, get out of here.
In fact, I'm going to go right back. Once we're wrap this up, I'm going to go right back to playing some Final Fantasy VII.
Yes, dude, that's so awesome. Yeah, but outside of that, there's been a lot of home cooking projects, especially my girlfriend's been doing a lot of stuff with bread when it comes to bagels, pretzels. Just made some wheat bread, and a lot of home brewing, home cooking. That is for certain right now. A lot of dishes too, which is always fun. That's the most annoying thing of cooking, obviously.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I use so many dishes when I cook. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
I don't even try to. It just happens.
Next thing you know, you're spending more time doing the dishes than you did actually cooking the food. It can be a little daunting at times, that's for certain.
Yeah.
But oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
Oh no, but it's good having my mini bar nice and stocked upstairs. I've been very fortunate through my time at the Speakeasy that there's been a lot of bottles that different vendors will just give to you, tell you to just do whatever with, kind of leave with you. So it's been good mixing around all these different cocktails with different vermouths, messing around with the bitters upstairs, and messing around on these cocktails while just doing a lot of cooking at home and just learning as much as I can while going along with it.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things to do my favorite time of day is probably just after the sun goes down and into the evening. I just open the windows, I pour myself a nice beer, and I just put on a record and put my feet up. Really
yeah, I've noticed that in in your Instagram posts.
That's kind of one of my favorite things to do, or just looking for some new tunes to rock out to. But
no, it's so good to get there's nothing like when you've hit that second either cocktail or beer, your favorite music's coming on. As you meant, you got a record player. It's the best sound, obviously out there when it comes to listening to music. But just to have that little bit of a buzz and that right weather, as you mentioned, the windows open. There's sometimes it's just nothing better than that feeling, just having the right music on and having that right buzz going too.
Yeah, man, I definitely missing the live music and the live scene these days.
Yeah. Speaking of which, do you do any of the? I haven't partaked in it just because out of fear of alcoholism. But do you do do you do the social happy hours at all? Do you do any of that?
I've caught part of them. Of course, Think New York, Drink New York, Think New York. I'm saying that in the opposite order, but Think New York, Drink New York has been hosted with a lot of the local brewers and everything. I caught some of. Cool. Yeah, I think they're doing one like every day at like 6:00, which is fantastic because you get to hear from the brewers. I caught part of Sam Pagano's from the pump station. I know Scott from Indian Ladder did one, and all kinds of people. So those are super cool. I only checked in for like a few minutes here and there because I'm usually tied up with the dog or making dinner.
Yeah.
Like but they're cool. I mean, it's interesting to see the way breweries and cocktail type places have adjusted during this, like we were talking about, even with just the delivery.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Like I'll be honest, I wish I knew about it sooner, but when I found out like probably a weekend that they were allowing cocktails to be delivered, I just kind of thought that was mind blowing. I don't know. It's you think about taking food to go, why not drinks? Maybe this has opened up some potential for something that, it might be one of the only like positives I feel like that might come out of this whole COVID virus is, now people after they're done drinking who have wanted to have one more cocktail but don't feel like they could drive if they did, now can go home with that cocktail and just, enjoy it at home before they go to sleep.
Yeah, it'll if things start getting back to some kind of normality, what policies kind of stay and go.
Yeah, I mean it's because I'm telling you that'd be I'd definitely take advantage of that if I knew that was an option. If you could get a cocktail to go along with your food, it's yeah, that'd be one of the things that I hope does stick out of all of this bullshit that's happening.
Yeah, man, these are weird times.
Yeah, it's weird, it's strange, it's hard to get used to. It's I think for me the one thing that I find myself grappling with is it's looking at this time trying to be appreciative of the fact that even though you are stuck indoors, there are things that are closed. You at least in my scenario, fortunate enough to have my girlfriend here, have a dog, our dog, to the point that I have obviously her I could be social with, the dog that keeps us entertained, keeps us on walks and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm sure our dog is probably sick of us.
I don't know. This guy, ours, has a personality to himself. If you go about 10 minutes without like petting him or like being close to him or trying to like snuggle or cuddle up, like he gets to that point where he'll just stare at you until you actually do it again. So I think during this time, like he is missing the chance of like being able to get out as much as he used to, but I think he also does appreciate us just being here nonstop for him, which that is one of the nice things. But
we do live to serve them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was just thinking about that the other day. Just anytime that you're in the kitchen cooking up some food, you turn around and you almost trip because every time that dog happens to be right there. Ready for the scraps, ready to take anything that you're
absolutely
wanting. Have them taste test you.
So what are some of Emmanuel's tips for quarantine to start wrapping things up here?
No, yeah, definitely. So as was mentioned before, I think the bottle aged cocktail is a good way to go. As mentioned, when you put the vermouth in there, you don't have to worry about the oxidation process just because you have the higher enough alcohol in the spirit. So you can always have that lying around and have that for you. I would look around. Also, have fun if Amazon or the co-op, any place can deliver, or you can get your hands on it. Make your own tonic syrup. Be very diligent about how much cinchona or basically cinchona bark you do use when you are making it. But tonic syrup supposedly is supposed to be good for you, not only for anti-inflammatory things, but it's supposed to help with like the general flu itself. So obviously no science out on if it can help COVID, but if it can help with like the seasonal flu and all that kind of stuff, like there's got to be something that, it can help you with, during this time. As mentioned, buy a lot of juice it up. Whatever you don't use, freeze it. It'll be around for a while if you do it that way. As was mentioned before, when it does come to, if you did want to buy 5 bottles, I would definitely grab, a light, dark, the orange liqueur, vermouth on the sweet side, and bitters. And if you are going to make any type of syrups, probably just regular sugar is all you really need, just like a basic simple syrup where you take just 1 part hot water to 1 part sugar. So for instance, 8 ounces of hot water, 8 ounces of sugar. And as long as you spike that with a little bit of your clear spirit, whether that be gin or vodka, that'll last for at least 1 month in your fridge. So you can have that around to make your basic old fashions or sweeten up like a Manhattan, things like that, if you find it to be too boozy for you. And then also check out obviously your podcast. Check out the videos I've been putting out, and I suggest for anybody that does have any questions, obviously ask yourself, and then to feel free to reach out. Myself at Emmanuel R.E. Trusky on Facebook, or to reach out at the Speakeasy 518 on Facebook or on Instagram itself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's gonna
yeah.
Yes. So that's going to do it for this episode of Stories from a Virtual Bar. Thank you, Emmanuel, for taking the time to hang out and chat. I appreciate it.
No, thanks for making this a thing and keeping it going, especially during this time.
Yeah, I'm doing my best, man. Like I said, I like doing what I can, at least, hoping I can provide some kind of help to local businesses, even if it's only a person or two learning something. So,
yeah, definitely.
Be sure to follow Speakeasy 518 on Facebook and Instagram, of course, where Emmanuel does his videos. Do you have a schedule you're trying to stick to when it comes to those?
To be quite honest, I think starting this week, I'm going to make a post about it on Instagram or Facebook, but I'm going to start doing the videos from my home bar, the very miniest of home bars. But I'm going to start. I'm going to start there. I might start up a new Instagram just because I think next week I'm working on it now, but I think next week I'm going to work on starting up a YouTube channel.
Nice.
Yeah, and there will be details about that starting next week. But I just want to kind of do what I was doing for for the Speakeasy, but just kind of do that from my home. Not to like encumber on the space of the Speakeasy, but just to be able to be like, hey, if I want to be able to shoot a video, I could just kind of do it from home instead of having to worry about like heading down there or inconvenience anybody.
I think the real question is, are you still going to put on the bow tie and suspenders at home?
You know what? It is the excuse to get dressed up, so I'm thinking, yeah.
Be sure to check out Emmanuel's videos. They will certainly help you to learn to make drinks like a master until that glorious day we can all be together again.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
No problem. And for anyone interested in hearing more about the Speakeasy 518, of course, it just in general, learning about it and things like that, be sure to go back and check out episode 19, where I hung out with Emmanuel actually at the Speakeasy, enjoying all kinds of drinks and talking all about that. A big thank you to everyone out there for checking out the show. You can find Stories from a Bar on Facebook, of course, and follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at StoriesFAB. You'll find the show on Apple and Google Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher. Did I say Stitcher?
Yeah, I like
did.
that.
I meant Stitcher. These noon beers are starting to get to me, I think.
Hey.
Stitcher, Spotify, and YouTube, pretty much where you would the big major players where you would expect to find a podcast. So be sure to check it out, subscribe, leave fantastic reviews, help spread the word. I greatly appreciate it. And thank you. Until next time, cheers.
Cheers.